Hey everybody, it's writer-director Len Kabasinski of Killer Wolf Films, and welcome to a brand new installment of my Forgotten Movie Den. If you're new to the Movie Den, I don't really rip on movies so much, just kind of have fun with them kind of thing, but it's more about bringing some more, maybe not well-known movies to your attention, and maybe you should check them out and go have a good time with them. With me, he'll be Joe from Ozone Nightmare, my right-hand man on these Forgotten Movie Den episodes, so he'll join us in a minute here. First order of business. Hopefully you're watching on my Patreon campaign. It is the best way to support my works, past, present, future. Future being demoniac, present being pact of vengeance, past being everything else, whatever, 15, 16 movies, whatever it's been. So all my films are on Patreon, patreon.com/killerwolffilms. I just put up a new service, a new perk, if you will, a Discord chat room for the $5 Patreon members. You'll see me in and out of there talking about films or, you know, what I'm watching or all those kinds of stuff. General grab bag for all my fans. Jump on there, $5 level, Discord chat room. Jump on it and have fun with us on there. So it's really talking about anything in general to movies, you name it. It's on there kind of thing. So check it out. Again, patreon.com/killerwolffilms. As promised, we're going to get this episode rolling right now and welcome in Joe from Ozone Late Night. As promised, I bring in the one and only Joe from Ozone Late Night. Joe, how are we doing on this wonderful Sunday?
We're doing wonderful. It is a beautiful Sunday. We're recording on Father's Day, so happy Father's Day, Len. And anybody else who's a father out there, hope you had a wonderful Father's Day. But doing good, man, doing good. We got a lot of good stuff done when we were together in Vegas. Now we're getting it back to our regular beat, so I am pumped. I'm ready to go.
Yeah, speaking of Vegas, we were out there last weekend now as guests of the Salty Nerd podcast, doing some, and if you're a member of Patreon, as I know I mentioned at the front of this video here, patreon.com/killerwolffilms. You go there, I've got 2 podcasts up now. Within the last week, I think I put a couple up. Those were shot out at the Salty Nerd podcast studios in beautiful Las Vegas. So I hope you'll hop on there and check them out. But what'd you think of it all, Joe? It was kind of weird to be in an actual studio setting, like a really nice one, by the way, but I think it was cool.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun, man. It was a good time. We had an amazing time recording. We did a packed commentary, so people can look forward to that. So that is order the physical copy when it's available, folks. And then we got to talk to Aaron Doherty, your production designer. So I feel like, man, we got a lot of stuff done. I mean, it was a tight time frame at times, but we got a lot of great stuff done. It was a blast. Their studio was amazing. They were very nice to let us use it, so we got to use some real professional audio equipment, which was great for me because I normally am just using my small home setup. So I had a great time, man. I have no complaints. It was a wonderful weekend. Got a lot of stuff done.
I agree, but speaking of wonderful weekend here, we mentioned we're filming on Father's Day here. What a way to wrap it up then with a Godfrey Ho picture. If you're not familiar with Godfrey Ho, shame on you. What are you doing watching the Forgotten Movie Den if you don't know who Godfrey Ho is? But, we'll get into his career, which is, I think Joe would agree, we could say it's fairly prolific when it comes to B cinema or C cinema, even at that. He is the master at shooting one movie and making 10 out of them kind of thing. But tonight, we're talking about 1993's classic. And I put classic in all capital letters when I mention this movie. It is the 1993 classic. And I put classic in all capital letters when I say that. It is the 1993 Godfrey Ho, I'll go as far as to say, but masterpiece, or really, really close. Undefeatable, starring Cynthia Rothrock. Joe, when we talk about Undefeatable, what did we watch?
Well, as you said, Godfrey Ho is known for putting multiple movies into one film, and Undefeatable is pretty much 2 different movies that Godfrey Ho smashed together. He took a classic Death Wish type of formula where a person is wronged and goes on the hunt for the person that killed her sister, and then she goes and starts fighting gangs that feel like they are right out of the Warriors, except with way more kung fu. So Cynthia Rothrock, who you and I both revere for good reason, Christy Jones, I believe is the character's name, on a path of vengeance that sees her going through multiple different themed gangs as she works her way up to Stingray with her cop sort of boyfriend, father figure, not sure, because this one has got it all.
Yeah, this is maybe Godfrey Ho's, like I mentioned previously, his masterpiece. And I know we had talked about Godfrey Ho in, I believe, our TV tournament there. I think Devil's Dynamite we had done. I believe that's a Ho picture. Yeah, this one feels like two different films, and apparently it was, Joe. And we'll get into this right off the bat. I want to say it was called Bloody Mary Killer or something of that nature.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Well, anyways, it was Robin, I want to say Shao, I think is how you say his last name. Robin Shao from Mortal Kombat, Mortal Kombat 1995's Mortal Kombat. Apparently, the second story involves Robin Shao as a detective or something like that. Anyways, I had heard that on the newly released 4K Undefeatable from, I want to say Vinegar Syndrome. I'm pretty sure it's Vinegar Syndrome. Anyways, you get the Bloody Mary Killer cut of the film when you purchase the 4K Ultra HD Blu-ray there from Vinegar Syndrome. So I'm waiting to get that in the mail, kind of thing, Joe.
Yeah, I am too. We have talked offline about a fact that we are jonesing for our Vinegar Syndrome stuff to arrive, and I ordered this day one of release. I went, oh yeah, I don't care if it has nothing on it except a pristine copy of this film. I am buying it no matter what, and I didn't even look at the extras, so that's even better because I was going to watch it no matter what. And now it's like, come on, I love you guys, but you got to get me my stuff. I'm waiting for it.
Yeah, and it's the same with me. I had ordered, we'll get to this on another episode, I'm pretty certain, but I had ordered the new Blu-ray for Justice Ninja Style. But I've yet to get that in the mail. I ordered it a couple weeks ago. Shipping's not the best. I'm not going to badmouth anybody, but shipping, not so swift with Vinegar Syndrome. But yeah, Undefeatable, the 4K, I can't wait to get that. Who knows when I'll get it? Hopefully this summer. But I can't wait to watch the Bloody Mary Killer version of this film, Joe.
Oh, yeah, me too. This is something where I was not aware that there was that second version of it, but it makes complete sense. I mean, this really does feel like it is two different movies that amazingly work fairly well together, but there does feel like there are two different types of films in here. Probably the best synthesis that Godfrey Ho ever did. Your point about it being a masterpiece, I totally agree. Yeah. But it definitely has that vibe where you're sitting there going, okay, because I'll watch anything Cynthia Rothrock does. She can kick a phone book and I'm watching, so that's fine. But I will be interested to see what the other version is like, and maybe it will be different enough that we'll be doing another show on that. We'll see. Yeah,
and Godfrey Ho at this point, and we'll get to Cynthia Rothrock in a few minutes here, but Godfrey Ho at this point had directed, he already went through his phase where Richard Harrison is in like 90 pictures for him. He was probably on set for a week, but he cut 90 movies with Richard Harrison in them, with his ninja headband that says ninja on it. You know what I mean? Ninja Terminator, maybe. I could see people saying that is maybe Godfrey Ho's masterpiece and his best work. I'll go Ninja Terminator or Undefeatable here. I probably like Undefeatable a little bit better. I think it flows better. I think there's zany, funnier things happening in Undefeatable. Obviously, Cynthia Rothrock, sells it home there at the end. But he had done that whole thing in the 80s where he did tons and tons and tons of ninja movies and Robo Vampire. And, all those things were already in the books before he did Undefeatable, Joe.
Yeah, and maybe that's why it works so well, is at this point he had a handle on it. And honestly, it's not like some of the other ones of his that we've watched where there is a very janky and disconnected quality. It's not that, but it's more of a thing that when you kind of know what to look for, you can tell that this feels like it. I would have even believed that maybe the script had been changed, that they had a different person in mind for Cynthia Rothrock's, because the fighting really picks up after the death of the sister. It's there in the beginning, you see it, but it ramps way up, and the gangs ramp way up. So it just has a completely different feel in the second half. That's not saying that the first half is bad, but there is definitely a shift. And so it does feel like he's really got that handle down, because it's not something that takes you out of the movie. It's just something that if you know what to look for, you'll notice it.
Yeah, I totally could see the first Rothrock fight, them going back and shooting that after large chunks of the movie were already, we're already in the books kind of thing. I could totally see that. I think I know what Bloody Mary Killer, and I haven't researched it enough, people, so I'm not going to talk about it because I try to not tell myself about it because I just want to go in cold and see what the split is with the two films. But I think when you watch Undefeatable, you'll have a good time and you'll understand that, where it's going to fit in kind of thing with the Robin Shaw character. I'm certain he's going to play some kind of detective or something on the case of Stingray, and then you're going to, because there is a heavy police drama component to this movie. But there's a lot to get here, a lot to get to here, Joe.
Oh yeah, I mean, this is a movie where there's. Yeah, let's start right with Stingray himself.
Yeah. I mean, he's the masterpiece.
Bizarre.
Yeah.
He is such a weird and great creation for this movie. I'll tell you my one complaint about this film is, how did a character named Stingray not drive a Corvette? I mean, you missed the trick, Godfrey. How did you not put Stingray into a Stingray? Thing where this character, who is a brutal, weird, mommy issue obsessed super fighter who is in death matches that take place somewhere by somebody for money, I suppose, is working with a promoter of death matches who has an office and an assistant, which seems to be really, really legally, I think maybe you might have some trouble in the future, but it doesn't matter. He doesn't make it to the end of the film, so who cares? A bad set of parents, a really, really terrible dysfunctional home life, which feels like a really Godfrey Ho read on what bad parenting can do in terms of trauma to a child. But for a movie like this, it's fine. You let it go. This is definitely the kind of, let's not delve too deeply into the reality of childhood trauma. Let's just use it as a way to make this wacky character who keeps eyes in a fish tank, and it's riveting. He's great. I love everything about him.
Yeah, and the actor, I forget his name, I'm sorry, but the actor that plays Stingray, apparently he didn't do very many films, but maybe a dozen or less, something like that. Anyways, I think he's a personal trainer in real life, which makes sense. He's a muscular guy and stuff like that, but he's a personal trainer in Las Vegas, where we just were last week. So, but yeah, I think his thing really sells it. I think the other detective, that's kind of the Cynthia Rothrock, they don't really establish it as a love interest, but the other hero, the other protagonist of the film, he kind of reminds me of like a John Stamos mixed with maybe a Jeff Wincott kind of character. That's the vibe I get from the good guy detective.
Yeah, I wonder if you've got this same sense. I feel like Rothrock's character, and maybe this was a product of it being redone or whatever, I feel like that character was supposed to be very young, and so the cop seems to never cross the romantic boundary because she's supposed to be in college age type of thing, and he's definitely older than that, so I think there was kind of a line that they bounced against but never wanted to cross because it might come off, because even I think he was supposed to be more of a paternal protector, and that's how it comes off. And it's weird though, because they seem to be the same age, so you're kind of not sure what this movie's going for, so it's a little weird, but they definitely seem to have set him up as the primary anti-Stingray. Like they have a big fight scene. It does feel like this was geared with him as maybe the only character, or protecting a character who could not fight. And then once Rothrock was involved, there was no way you were not going to let her start kicking ass all over the place.
Well, let's get into that, because I think, I think you nailed it, where he's more the paternal figure. Right up even in the last scene of the movie, he's like that, and we'll get to that, because it's a really silly, crazy ending. But, Cynthia Rothrock here, is too old to play like a street punk gang member at this point. And she's probably in her 30s when she did this movie. So we're talking about a movie that's 30 years old. She's in her 60s. She's probably in her early 30s minimum when she's shooting Undefeatable probably here. So, but with Rothrock too, Undefeatable here happens. It's 1993 when this is released. I believe it was an Imperial Film release, which was a pretty good release for Godfrey Ho, who, used to his seasonal releases and things like that. But, Rothrock at this point, too, strangely enough, I mean, she had her righting wrongs. Her Hong Kong stuff obviously had already come out. What was the big Hong Kong one you love? The Madam one, Joe?
Oh, Yes, Madam.
Yes, Madam.
Yes, Madam.
Yes.
Michelle Yao.
Yeah. That's already come out. So those Hong Kong pictures of Rothrock have already kind of established her in that market. This was obviously Undefeatable, we're talking about, being a Hong Kong film, yet filmed in America with some Americans in the cast kind of thing. But this is clearly a Hong Kong picture. But Rothrock, At this point, we mentioned those films, but she's already done pictures for like MGM, Joe, bigger studio. She had already done Martial Law 1 and 2 at this point. She had already done Rage and Honor with Richard Norton and Brian Thompson, a decent budget B-movie and stuff, and MGM is releasing those to home video. Universal MGM home video is releasing those. And then smack dab, here we are, you're in a Godfrey Ho picture, Joe.
Yeah, I it's such an interesting thing to think about her career, and this is still in that time frame where, at least in the United States, there just was not the respect for this type of film and the people who could do this type of work. Chow Yun-fat famously tried to come into American films with The Replacement Killers.
Right, yep.
And that was supposed to be his big movie, having done Hard Boiled, The Killer, Better Tomorrow. I mean, stuff that would establish him as a perfect action star. And Replacement Killers, well, I think is a fun film. I love it. Most people in the United States to know him. And it's the same kind of thing here, where I think it was a lack of respect by the American filmmaking industry and the audience, frankly. Yes, people like you and I eat this stuff up, but we were considered niche. There was no Matrix, John Wick, where you started to see the choreography and the influence of Hong Kong action and fight choreography and stunt work. That stuff was absent. And that's why I think Rothrock, unfortunately, got sidelined. And probably also because she was a woman at that time. There was no real kind of prominent female action stars. It was still Arnold and Sly and that type of Jean-Claude Van Damme, that type of thing. Yeah. And I think those two elements, unfortunately, killed any chance of this being any bigger than it should have been. This should have been a huge movie that people knew about. Didn't go any, or at least as far as I know, did not do anything that catapulted her into the status she should have gotten.
No, I think after Undefeatable, she had a couple more, obviously, direct-to-video releases. I think she tried to do a failed, television pilot. I want to say it's Night Vision is the name of it. Fred Williams, the Hammer, Fred Williamson is in it and stuff like that. That didn't happen. And then right around, I think we could pinpoint, the major body of Rothrock's work is between like 87, 88, and I know we exclude a couple early Hong Kong films there, which I don't mean to do, but I mean, for American audiences, I'd say 87 to maybe 95, 96 is probably that era, where she pumped out, the most direct-to-video films and all that kind of stuff in her career, and then she kind of just seemed to drift away there for a little while, Joe.
Yeah, again, it's unfortunate. I think you're right, though. Mid-'80s to mid-'90s would seem to be kind of the golden era of her work and where you could find stuff with her. And, I mean, it bums me out. I don't know how else to put it, because you see somebody like this who has such talent and such ability to perform on anybody's level, whether you're talking about her early stuff or even through the mid-'90s. I mean, even here at Undefeatable, you're seeing her do great work, but it's still a shame that she never got the chance to do some huge, big-budget American action film that might have canonized her in the way that we put other action stars in, because she absolutely deserves to be in that list of people. She is that good. If you have not seen her early Hong Kong work, get to it as soon as possible. Yeah. See that stuff. It's excellent, uniformly, and see this as well. It's just, she's that good. That's all I can say about it. Yeah,
no, I agree 100%. And when we talk about her Hong Kong films, we're talking about Yes, Madam, which is one of Joe's favorites. We're talking about, Inspector Wears Skirts, right? There's several of them. Righting Wrongs.
Righting Wrongs.
Yeah. So there's several good ones there. I would challenge you to see one of her first American releases. Again, shot overseas in Thailand, I believe. It stars Lauren Avedon, his career was just getting going. Max Thayer, who's kind of a veteran at that point of cinema. But it is a film called No Retreat, No Surrender 2. It is the sequel to the one that launched Van Damme, but it has nothing at all to do with it. He's out to rescue his girlfriend in Thailand somewhere that was captured. It's a crazy kung fu action movie. No Retreat, No Surrender 2. It is from 1987. It really launched Cynthia Rothrock to the American video market, in my opinion. And right from there, then we go into China O'Brien, and I feel like those are forgotten movies.
I would put Martial Law on there.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Oh, no, Martial Law 1 and 2.
Absolutely. And Tiger Claws. Also. There's lots of good stuff. This is why it bothers me so much. Is there there is so much good material, and you can
Yes.
find all of it. And at the time, it just never went above the direct-to-video level, which is it's just a shame. There's no other way to say it, but it's a shame.
Speaking of the Stingray character, you mentioned Tiger Claws, which the first one I really like, with Jalal Murray and Bolo Yen and stuff. Tiger Claws has obviously the maneuver in the movie, the kung fu maneuver is Tiger Claws, which he's using to like rip people's throats out or whatever he's doing to kill people. Bolo Yen, the serial killer in that film. In this film, the killer Stingray uses Eagle Claw. Funny enough, just a year previous to this, in the movie Talons of the Eagle, with Jalal Murray, Billy Blanks, Matthias Hughes is in it, the killer is using the Eagle Claw maneuver. The special effects in this movie, if we could go back, I wish maybe there was more of the eye socket gouging, death and stuff like that. We really only see her sister, right?
Yeah, we kind of see the one guy in the parking garage, but you don't see it. You know, you see him do the thing to him, but you don't really get to see it. You know, you don't see much of it. So yes, I would have liked to see more of that because they play it up with the fish tank and everything.
Right.
To have seen a little bit more of it would have been, yes, I agree, better.
I think that's one of the only missed opportunities in this movie, is you could almost not turn it into like horror element kind of stuff, but there was some special effects stuff probably left on the table, but you might also be able to nod your cap to Godfrey Ho there, knowing that, hey, this isn't your specialty. Let's not go that direction. Let's stay with the fights. And speaking of the fight choreography and action, this is some of maybe the best of Cynthia Rothrock's fight scenes in her entire career, I think, Joe. I will go out on a limb and say Undefeatable is some of her best scenes. She's running and jumping off of walls, kicking people off of doing it. There's some really, really good stuff here in terms of choreography.
Yeah, I actually think this might be some of the most I've seen her where she's not just on the ground doing kind of ground level work, where she's on barrels, she's up on a table. There's a lot of air work. I agree. It's interesting that the movie utilizes her a little bit in the first half, and then there's that point after the death of her sister. It's almost like they said, okay, we want you to wait to do your fighting. We want you to do the dramatic stuff for that scene, which is great. She does very well in it. And then it's like, okay, get your emotion, your drama out of everything that comes near you. And they just let her loose, and it is probably some of the most entertaining fighting, I agree with you, that I've ever seen her do, and it's delightful. I love the back half of this film so much that I don't care what flaws it may have. It's a great showcase for her and her talent. It's wonderful.
Yeah, I think Rothrock's great in it. I think she gets a dramatic scene where she gets to go for it, where she's identifying her sister's body in the morgue and stuff like that. I think she's really quite good. The editor doesn't do her any favors, but I think she's actually quite good in that scene, and we don't see Cynthia do that kind of stuff, especially in that era kind of thing. She's there to kick people's ass, and she's great at it. But here she gets to, spread her acting wings a little bit, courtesy of Godfrey Ho, oddly enough. But I think she's really good in this film, and I think we mentioned how Godfrey Ho, cut a bunch of movies and some aren't super great, or he made, one movie into 10 movies and all this kind of stuff. But what do you think separates? Because I think there is separation here from this project to a lot of his other films. What do you think separates Undefeatable Godfrey Ho from everything else Godfrey Ho?
Well, I think part of it is, as we discussed earlier, I think maybe his experience up to this point allowed him to make the join of these two different things more smoothly. Maybe it was seeing all that, doing all that stuff before led him to have a better handle on it. I think maybe there was just maybe Rothrock thought, and probably a lot of people in this thought, that this was going to be a big launching pad, and so they were giving him maybe more than some of the people in his other.
Okay, that's interesting.
It could have just been right people, right time, just accidental. Because I agree with you. She's really good in this.
I agree,
and it's something that you don't see in much of, any of her filmography, but certainly her direct-to-video stuff. They usually don't let her stretch this far. It's normally like, okay, make a one-liner, have a slight bit of romance with whatever male lead we've got.
Right.
That's kind of
That's
it.
true.
But they give her a whole breakdown scene at her sister's body. And they don't cut it short. She goes on, and it's really effective. And it gives you all of what you need to believe. Sure what it is, but it could just be a mix of the right elements at the right time and people who really believed that this was going to be their big break. And so they put more effort into it maybe than they would have later on when they were kind of worn down, or beforehand when they didn't really think this was going to be a big shot. That's all I can think of.
Yeah, I think the big thing that separates this from a lot of other, the rest, really, of Godfrey Ho's work, And I've seen tons of them, people, but even Ninja Terminator, which I know some people will say, Len, you're wrong, Undefeatable's not his best, it's Ninja Terminator. Okay, let's call it a push. I like Undefeatable better, but okay. Even separates it from a picture like Ninja Terminator is, I think the photography in this movie is really good. You get very rich depth of field shots and all this kind of stuff. Whoever did his photography in this movie, I would be surprised how many other films of, Godfrey Ho that this particular photographer shot. Because whoever his director of photography is or his photographer, they're really good in this movie, in my opinion, Joe.
Yeah, and the editing is really good too. That's another thing. The editing.
Oh, it's immortal, right?
Sometimes Godfrey Ho is not necessarily known for.
Right.
It's far better, and I agree with you. It looks great. I mean, it looks like a legitimate movie that you would expect to go see, maybe not in a wide release, but to be able to see in a theater with a bunch of people who appreciate it. If they release this now, I think it would do extremely well. This would be something people would go to and they would have a blast at.
Me too. I agree with that 100%. I think the fights are really good in this. I think Godfrey Ho is, we tip our cap to Rothrock going for in that scene, but we forget there's a director there too. Maybe Godfrey Ho, that was just one of his moments. One of his best directing moments is right there. So we got to give him credit there. You know what I mean? Really, in terms of photography and all that kind of stuff, I mentioned the action and martial art choreography being some of his best, if not his best. And he's done tons of those kinds of movies. I would say, Joe, I think about, 5 or 6 months ago, if that, I watched Crocodile Fury. Obviously what it sounds like, a crocodile picture that Godfrey Ho did. And it's a crazy film. It's crazy. But some of it in it, the special effects, and thought, oh my God, Godfrey Ho's doing a special effects driven picture. And I thought, this is pretty good for what it is. And then it goes off the rails mentally a little bit kind of thing, like you would expect a Godfrey Ho picture to go. But, it's not cut from Ninja Terminator. Or, all of his other, pictures that he did throughout his career, Devil's Dynamite and all those kinds of things. And he's went by a ton of different names, people. Godfrey Hall, I think this movie might be directed by Godfrey Hall. But me and Joe know better. We know it's you, Godfrey Ho. So, but, I think there's a big separation in his career. I know he did Honor and Glory, I believe, with Cynthia Rothrock just before this picture. I think Undefeatable came after Honor and Glory. I like both of those. It's a lot of the same cast and stuff. The same male lead is in it. The villain, unfortunately, I don't think is in Honor and Glory. But there's a lot of good things in this one. But we mentioned some of the comedy and stuff in this, Joe. And I think there's some true laugh out loud, like funny, unintentional kind of funny moments in this, Joe. Pick one of the funny moments that you really found awesome in this.
I think unintentionally when the manager is wandering through Stingray's lair and remarking out loud at what the audience is supposed to be thinking. I mean, it's played up. When you see some clips, you'll see the guy say, why does Stingray have so many eyeballs in the face? And it is legitimately hilarious because I think it's supposed to be played as horror because I think there's kind of horror-esque lighting, and of course he's there.
Right.
And if you as the audience, Stingray's about to come up behind him. We already know what's going to happen in this scene, but maybe it's the actor and the line delivery and just the whole ridiculousness of the fish tank with the eyeballs. It comes off so funny that it is the funniest moment in the film for me by far.
I'm going to go with the very last scene of the picture, Joe. We are at the grave site of Cynthia Rothrock's sister in the film, who was murdered near the first act of the film there. And her gang, I want to call them the Black Roses, but they're not. They're called something else. But the gang that she belongs to, there's like 4 of them, or 5 of them max. They're all gathered around the grave of her sister, and our cop paternal figure is there as well, and everybody's going off to college, apparently. They've bankrolled all the gang members to go to college. I mean, I'm cracking up even saying this. But then Cynthia Rothrock's like, well, are you going? And nope, I'm going back to waitressing or whatever. No, you're not. Paternal figure comes in and says, I enrolled you too. You guys start Monday. And it's like, oh, surprise, you're enrolled in college and you're going to start in about 48 hours. So I thought the scene was hysterical to end the film, Joe.
I agree, it is funny. And it's bizarre because at first it starts as this thing where she's leaving the gang and she puts her gang chains and spikes on the grave. And then it spins around to a complete misunderstanding of how college admissions works. And B, the fact that Wait, I have a job. I have to start college on Monday. Do you think I just don't have to go to my job anymore? Did I just quit my job? Because he keeps leaving her money for big tips, and now he's paying for her college. So maybe he's a secret millionaire on the police force. That's possible, I guess. It's never really defined, but how else would I interpret this scene? It is amazing to end a movie on, that's for sure.
Yeah, they do. You get the classic kind of freeze frame ending thing with the group getting together and off they're going to college, like the Ghoulies or whatever. But yeah, this is a really, really, really drop whatever you're doing now and see it. It is available to watch on Tubi TV right now. It is in HD and stuff like that. It's very nice. You go watch Devil's Dynamite and it looks like garbage on Tubi, but you go and you watch Undefeatable. It looks great. It's sound, everything's good. I think it's impossible not to have a good time with this. This film is littered with cliches. When our hero is introduced, Joe, I think you'd agree, this is the time, true, tested, go into the supermarket or convenience store and beat up the bad guy scene to introduce our hero here.
Oh yeah, I mean this is going to a lot of this film for people who watch these types of movies. If you've never seen it, you're going to recognize a lot of what's coming. You're going to understand what these scenes are. The nice part is, if you've watched a good amount of these films, you will never be lost because it does not stray far from the formula.
No.
The rare parts that it does are, as Len said, the comedic ending, or the fact that you probably won't guess why Stingray keeps calling his wife mommy. You might guess at it. You might just think it's something warm. And it's different, I'll give it that. So there are the little times where it wanders off the familiar path, but yes, I mean, there's cliches all the way through to, Christy Jones is fighting in gangs, and the cop doesn't like that, so Christy, you're going to have to stop that. And sure enough, she can't stop that because she can't make money, so I wonder if the cop's going to catch her fighting in a gang again, or fighting with gangs again. I mean, it's all there. It's all familiar, but none of it is ever stale. It's never boring. All it is pure entertainment beginning to end, so who cares?
I'd like to hear your opinion on this as we wrap up this show, Joe. We had done Godfrey Ho pictures before on the Forgotten Movie Den, whether it was in the Tubi TV tournament we did, those kinds of things, but I'm going to backtrack on something I said, thinking Robo-Vampire was his must-see work and stuff like that. Watching this again, I take that back. I think if you're coming in and you're going to be new to come into the Godfrey Ho universe of things, the Godfrey Ho cinematic director universe kind of thing, I think Undefeatable is the absolute must-see picture of everything he's done, Joe. I think Undefeatable is it.
Well, I'll say this, because there's different tastes for different people, and depending on what version of Godfrey Ho you want, this is absolutely, and I think almost anybody's top three. Now, Robo-Vampire has its appeal for a certain type of movie, so if you're in for something goofy and supernatural or whatever, that's going to be more your flavor. But in terms of technical excellence and getting the best out of the actors and having great people to utilize, yes, like you said, you can bounce back and forth, Ninja Terminator, that type of thing. And that's just more of the flavor of the moment that you're in. But this is absolutely, if not the top three, top five, without any doubt.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Robo-Vampire, I think, is fun. I definitely think everybody that loves, like, B cinema or wacky-ass cinema should see it. Ninja Terminator, of course. And that's coming out right in the craze after, right when American Ninja and the canon stuff is exploding at the time, and Revenge of the Ninjas, just happened, those kinds of things. Ninja Terminator, I think, is funny and it's important. But I think there's just Undefeatable, it's a different level. It looks like there's a budget. It looks like somebody's really directing the photography. It looks like Godfrey Ho might even be directing actors in Undefeatable. So I'm going to say Undefeatable, you're right. It depends what flavor is for everybody. But if you're looking for like a martial art action picture from Godfrey Ho. Forget the Ninja Craze stuff where he did 35 pictures. He really probably did 2. But he turned them into 35 pictures. See Undefeatable. Joe, I think this is literally a near 5-star B movie that we've done here. And I love all the movies that we pick to do on the Forgotten Movie Den usually. And I tell our viewers that, hey, we're just trying to highlight fun movies we think might have went under your radar somewhere and put them out there. Undefeatable is on the top shelf for me in terms of that, Joe.
Oh, I'm in total agreement. I mean, I think I've said more than once on this show that Cynthia Rothrock was my Bruce Lee for what Bruce Lee was in terms of martial arts.
Yeah.
And as you said correctly, this does stand above most of Godfrey Ho's other work. So you combine those two elements.
Right.
And yes, this is a no hesitation recommendation type of thing. Where
Yeah,
it's like,
absolutely.
if you haven't seen this, and because you can watch it for free, you don't have to pay to watch this. So run to Tubi as fast as you can and load it up. Start it getting in the background spooling before this episode ends so that you can be ready to go, because you will thank us, and you will thank us quickly.
Joe, when people want to learn more about Joe from Ozone Late Night, where can they go?
Very simple. Just go to ozonenightmare.com and you will see two links there, one for my visual art and one for my podcast, and that will take you anywhere you want to go. Very simple.
For Joe from Ozone Late Night, I'm Len Kabasinski. As always, support my works best by joining my Patreon, patreon.com/killerwolffilms. I hope you check it out. I hope you enjoyed the episode on YouTube or Patreon. Chime in. Tell us what genres you want to see. Tell us what you think me and Joe should be watching if you think we haven't seen it yet. I love getting recommendations back from the fans, so come at us with that stuff, people, and we'll talk to you soon.